I've thought a lot about this, the word resilience and I felt like, well, I need to have one good, like, you know, I overcame that and then it was all good. And there's not just one thing. If I feel like every day it's a defiance of challenge. I mean, and so, I mean, I did go through a divorce, but it didn't define me or slow me down, right? I mean, yes, it was a difficult time, and my neck went out at the same time, and we were moving into a new building and merging two organizations together at the same time. I mean, it was chaos. And so that was like a big obstacle and a big challenge. But you put on your big girl pants and your lipstick and you keep it and your earrings and
Don't say
and never leave home without your earrings and your lipstick, ladies.
Hey everybody, I'm back with another episode of So What Success Stories. And today I am talking to my friend Lisa Moore. And Lisa is the founder of More Possibilities. But she has an amazing background, an amazing story. And we actually met when she was the president, CEO of, or executive director, whichever title it was, of Girls Inc. And everybody knows me, knows I have a heart for youth and working with youth, and so does Lisa. And she's done that work with Girls Inc. And that's how I was blessed to make acquaintance with Lisa. And now I am super excited about her and her new journey and all the things that she's doing in her life. So let's get into this interview. But first, Lisa, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, thank you, Summer, for asking me to be a part of your show. It's quite an honor. Uh, when you get to a certain age, it's kind of like, what is the story? You don't want to. And 60 years ago when I was born, but the truth is, I had a really great childhood. I had a really great growing up. I was a student athlete. Um, Thought I was gonna be a collegiate athlete, and my shoulder blew out, and that changed everything. Um, and then you just kind of plunder along, and got married, had two amazing children, got divorced. And in the midst of all of that, a really incredibly fulfilling and challenging career. Um, and so I had my undergrad and graduate degrees in education, and utilized those skills in a youth development profession. So I was really lucky that I started right out of college with Girls Club of Memphis, which is now Girls Inc. We changed our name in 1990, and I had the great opportunity to be mentored by two just titans in the industry, Patricia C. Howard and Brenda Stegall, who were really writing what it meant to equip youth, girls in particular, with the skills they need to be successful, and literally wrote the book on how to do that. And so I came in at a really exciting time in the organization's life and under two incredible mentor leaders. And so that really started my trajectory in my career. And was with the organization, then moved to Massachusetts, and did youth development in Boston, and then got back with Girls Inc. in Lynn, Massachusetts, and then executive director in Haverhill, Massachusetts. I just kept going north, which was very odd. And then had the great opportunity to be a regional director for the national organization of Girls Inc. And so was in Indianapolis, Indiana. So got to experience, middle America, which is very different. So I was like South, New England, middle America. I really got a flavor of the country through these experiences, and then came back home to Memphis after being gone for 10 years, and was with Bridges, which does leadership and diversity training with high school adolescent youth, and then I started my own company. So I started doing consulting. I took all the things I'd been doing and really wanted to equip others to do the work well, with a real lens not only on equipping and providing experiences for youth to have voice and choice in life and lead, but also what does it mean to build community, and to do that effectively in the work. So, but my mother was sharing a home with my mother, and she became terminally ill. So I took a year off to care for her full time when she was in hospice with leukemia. And when she passed away, I just didn't have it in me to be self-employed with two children and single. And so it was, I guess it's okay to say this, it was a God thing. It was my mother as an angel thing, where, as you know, from your experience, Summer, with FedEx, they don't, back in the day, they didn't really hire outside the fence, which was a really beautiful thing because you could really move up in the company and a lot of opportunities. But in 10 days' time, I heard about a job and got a job doing leadership training with FedEx Services. And it was just such a gift. Most people don't go to corporate America to heal and grow, but I did. And so 2.5 years, I had the great honor of really doing some really important work, doing developing and leading the new manager onboarding for the entire OpCo, and director development program for high performing managers, and our culture shaping program, which was just took me all over the world. It was really so much fun.
Well,
So
look,
much
let's
fun.
get into the questions because that's
Yeah.
I'm like, I love your background. I'm learning so much, so much. And I can't wait to get yours. So in this program, I have what I call the So What Success system.
Yes.
And it is my belief that if anyone can learn how to overcome obstacles, eliminate excuses, and calculate choices, they can have what I call So What Success. And that is success no matter what happens in life. And so, Lisa, I know you well enough to know you've gone through some things, you've experienced some things, and you are a So What Success woman. So tell us first a little bit about some of the obstacles you've had to overcome and just how you've overcome them. You shared a lot already, but go a little bit deeper for us.
Yeah, I've thought a lot about this, the word resilience, and I felt like, well, I need to have one good, like, I overcame that and then it was all good. And there's not just one thing. If I feel like every day it's a defiance of challenge. I mean, and so, I mean, I did go through a divorce, but it didn't define me or slow me down, right? I mean, yes, it was a difficult time, and my neck went out at the same time, and we were moving into a new building and merging two organizations together at the same time. I mean, it was chaos. And so that was like a big obstacle and a big challenge. But you put on your big girl pants and your lipstick, and you keep it, and your earrings, and
Don't
never leave home without your earrings and your lipstick, ladies. And it you just keep moving. My mother became terminally ill, like I said, and took a year off. And where some may say that was a huge obstacle, to me, it was the greatest, hardest gift I could ever have been given, to really help my mother navigate her end of life. I mean, gracious, that's a gift. Um, I hit some really significant financial um hardship after she died. I hadn't worked for a year. I did not have a job. I had two children. I had a home. I it, that there was nobody else bringing in income, and I had gone through my resources to care for my mother, which I would do again. And yet you take one day at a time and you keep it moving. Um, that was in February, and by the end of the year, IRS had taken my account. And not only is that horrifying personally, but it's horrifying professionally because, like, your employer gets involved, and nothing like FedEx knowing you're hitting financial trouble. That's fun. And I mean, it was one of those fall to your knees, not coming out of your nose. What am I going to do? What do I do? Moments, because I had no family, I had no spouse. It was me. and my kids, and I had to figure it out. And I called for help, and I called some family from my faith community, and they helped me walk through they helped me get unparalyzed. I was just paralyzed by it. Like I
Mhm.
was like, here's my budget, here's what I can do, but I don't know how to manage it all. He made all the calls, he got it together for me, and a year later, I took my daughter to Rome for her 30th birthday and my 50th birthday. And it's like, okay, and I'm in a season now where I'm really facing some significant challenges where I've left the security of full-time employment. I've moved to a whole new community where I know no one. And there's not money coming in.
Mhm.
And so I'm having to figure it out, and it's scary. I have moments where I don't handle it so well. And then I remember, put on your big girl pants, put on your lipstick, put on your earrings, and keep it stepping.
Thank you. So Lisa, and I can relate to every bit of that because I left the comfort of a corporate job to do what I'm doing now. And
Yeah,
yeah, being an entrepreneur is very challenging. And I know you said you had done it before,
right.
and you were just like, I don't feel like doing this right now because it is a lot of work. It's way
Yeah,
more work than most people think. And so you went back to corporate. And so yeah, now you are doing a new thing and you're doing a big, bold, brave thing for you.
yeah.
And you're reminded though you've made it before. And even in challenges, you can make it again. And so
Mhm.
Lisa, it's interesting too because I'm just thinking about, those are obstacles that you've had to overcome and most people wouldn't know. And that's why I like doing these interviews is because people need to see that you've had those obstacles, you've overcame those obstacles. Like you said, you took your daughter to Rome. So the
Yeah,
second part of the So What Success system is eliminating excuses. So you had those obstacles, you probably were making some excuses, you're probably feeling sorry for yourself. But talk about how you were able to eliminate those excuses or what were some of those excuses that you were making to get out of that hole.
right. Well, I mean, yes. I mean, there's always the moment of like, what the heck? And like, had this not happened to me, then I wouldn't be in this. If this hadn't happened, then, but we all have choices in those moments, right? Even when there's some extenuating circumstances that are outside of our control, we somehow chose to be in the midst of it. So we all have a role to play. So it's not really in my DNA to ever have an excuse. It just isn't. I don't know if it's because I'm a Capricorn or I'm just Lisa Moore and raised by Joe and Parthena. There were no excuses. That's
Yeah.
not how I was, I guess, raised or even think about thinking. Um, and at the same time, um, I realized that I had a great leader, mentor, Jim Boyd, who I'd go plowing into his office in the midst of a lot of chaos that was happening, and he'd be like, "Slow down. How you doing?" I'd be like, "I'm fine, I'm good." And he was like, He said, "I feel like you're a swan. You look really graceful on the top of the water, but I know you're pedaling like hell underneath." And so that's really kind of how I think my mode of operation is. Like, I'm never gonna, that remember the commercial, never let them see us sweat?
Yeah.
That's me. Like, oh, you're not gonna see me sweat. Which really then sets up everybody to thinking, oh, well, she's got it easy. She doesn't need any help. She's got it all together.
Yep.
When the reality is, what I had to do, it was less about stopping giving excuses, and it was more about saying, I need help, and being willing to reach out and say, can you please help me? Can you please hold my hand through this? I need some support. That was really hard for me,
Yeah.
because I always felt like it was mine to figure out and I had to figure it out. And that's not true. And
I
it's not helpful.
I think about that time when we went to lunch and I was like, oh my gosh, we should have gone to lunch years ago and we should have been friends years ago because we are so much alike.
Yeah.
We are so alike, so alike. As I can definitely resonate with everything you just said. Now you
Yeah.
already talked about choices a little bit, but the third part of So What Success system is calculating choices.
Yeah.
Talk about some of the choices that you've made along your journey. including the choice that you made most recently in moving and everything that you have going on with your life now.
Yes. It every year on Martin Luther King's birthday, I would have a crisis of calling. And particularly in my 30s and 40s. And I think I finally just was like, well, um, it was kind of like, look at what he accomplished, and he never even turned 40. Like, what are you doing? And so I reached out to a friend of mine and was like, I'm trying to figure out what I really should be doing in this life to make a big impact in the world. And what do you think I ought to be doing? And in this swirl. And she said to me, Lisa, I don't know what you're doing. She said, nothing that's ever happened in your life has been planned. And I took great offense to that. I was like, what do you mean I'm not in control of my life and I didn't plan my life? But then I stepped back and I really thought about it and I was like, wow, she's right. A lot of doors that opened up for me were unexpected.
Yeah.
And so you can choose to take those doors or not. And so choices that I've made along the way, I mean, the choice to end a 16-year marriage with somebody that I actually loved and who loved me, it just didn't work. Like, that's a choice.
Yeah.
And people didn't understand that choice. And that some people still don't understand that choice. But it was the right choice for both of us. And we knew that, even if nobody else did. The choice to start up my own company when things were going great where I was a choice.
Yeah.
And a lot of it has been all of my choice to pick up at age 60, leave everything, I've known and move to a new city and state. Feels like it was somewhat random. But I've learned that since being here, that I actually have extreme deep ancestral roots right here.
Oh, wow.
My great grandmother that my mother was named after is buried in Charlotte, and I'm in the suburbs of Charlotte.
Wow.
My grandfather was born and raised there. The church they attended, he was a Presbyterian preacher, still running since the 1700s, still there. I visited, I worshiped there. He went to Davidson College, which I could throw a rock and hit from my house. Like, I felt a draw, but didn't know it until I got here. And so some choices are really intentional. I'm choosing to move. Other choices, if you just pay attention, I think, to the universe enough, it just leads you. Or if you open yourself up and you do the good work and you're doing what brings you joy on any given day, those opportunities are going to present themselves. And then it's up to you to choose whether or not you'll seize that opportunity or not. That's kind of my take on choice.
I love it.
I can choose to show up. I can choose to show up well. I can choose to be an a-hole. I can choose to not let fear stop me. Those are choices.
You made some big choices, some bold choices throughout your life, and I've seen some of them. And like I said, the most recent one, I'm just like, oh, I love it. I admire it because some people are scared. A lot of people are scared to do a lot of the things that you've done.
Yeah.
And you probably were even scared when you were doing it,
Well,
right?
it's really interesting to me because I travel alone a lot. I go all over the world by myself. I have, made bold decisions in my career and like picking up and moving to a whole new place. And people say, oh my gosh, you're so brave. And that always really surprises me. And I was like, it didn't feel brave. It just felt like that's what I had to do. I, I don't know how to explain it any other way than that. It's like, I want to go. Nobody else can go. I'm going.
I'm laughing because I'm like, that's me. I don't know if everybody watching it gets it, but I totally get it. That's me too. I'm like, because people call me brave, and I'm like, well, I guess, but it's just the same. Like,
Right. I mean, is it? I mean, I'm just going. When I was working at Bridges with Jim Boyd, we were doing some real transformational growth work, and I kept saying, that the work meant I wanted for young people to find their voice and experience their power. And a lot of what I do, I feel like, is like finding my own voice and experiencing my own power. And encouraging others to do the same, because when we're fully alive in that way, then good things happen. We're not hiding our gifts under a barrel. Um, so we were having these series of conversations about that, and he gave me a poster that I'm staring at right now. I keep in front of me, that has now been in my office for 25 years. And it says, courage is not the absence of fear, but the strength to do what's right in the midst of it, in the face of it. And so when I face those obstacles, it's like, well, what's the right thing to do? When I'm having to go into a challenging coaching conversation with an employee, am I doing the right thing for the right reasons? Am I saying the right things for the right reasons? When I'm having to go in and make a pitch or try to convince a donor that this is what they need to do, I'm doing the right thing for the right reason. There was After George Floyd's murder, there was a open letter that was put together by organizations in town to take to the government to make some demands of what we felt needed to happen to improve our equity in our community. And it was strong advocacy. There's no doubt about that. It was making a stand. And as I was walking to the press conference, a leader of another organization asked me, "Were you afraid to sign the letter?" And I mean, my head whipped around. I was like, "No, not at all." I was like, I shared it with my board. I followed protocol as the executive of a nonprofit that's entrusted by the community and has a board of directors that are leaders. We engaged in the conversation, but it was a no-brainer for us because we believe in advocating for our participants and making sure that we are building a world that's worthy of our girls. And so it was a no-brainer. This was in the best interest of our girls and the girls we serve. So there was no fear. This was a no-brainer. But she was so afraid that she would lose donors, or she would lose, I don't know what, get in trouble with people that were important to her. But sometimes you have to do the right thing for the right reasons, even when it's a challenge.
As you were sharing that, it makes me think about because at that time I was the president of the National Alumni Association board of directors for the University of Memphis, and it was similar in that I said we have to say something. I have to say something, and similar in that sometimes organizations don't want to take a stand and
Right.
something that serious and I
It's like, really, are you doing your mission if you're not willing to speak out?
about something that is so blatantly wrong, right? And so
Right.
Dr. Rudd at the time, who was our president, I was very happy that he did. He spoke up immediately, and I said I need to say something too. So similarly,
Mhm.
I'm proud when people can stand up and say something and not worry about who you might lose when it's something so important. And Lisa, I'm not not surprised at all that that was not a question at all for
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
No. I know. So Lisa, you again, it's so funny because I was like, I see so much of me in you, so much. You are definitely a so what success woman. You know how to overcome obstacles. You know how to eliminate excuses or never even make them, right? Never even think about them. And obviously you've made some very calculated choices, and sometimes some choices just happen, right?
Right. Yes.
But
Yes.
you are so a success woman. Lisa, what though is your personal definition of success?
My personal definition of success is doing what brings you joy that increases the joy of others. And that sounds kind of woo wooey or soft or whatever, but the truth of the matter is, when you bring your best self, even when it's hard, if you can find the joy in it, it's what drives you, it's what motivates you. You're doing that thing that just feels good to you, even when it's hard and you can't wait to get back at it. But not only that, and is self-serving, but is whatever you're doing actually making this world a better place for somebody else? To me, that's success.
Love it. I love it. I agree with that definition completely. I love it. I know, I love it so much. That's why I quit my corporate job to do what I do for the very same reason. I love it, Lisa. Okay,
Yeah.
before I ask you the last question, tell us a little bit about more possibilities and what you're doing
Mhm.
for possibilities now.
Yeah, more possibilities is it's consulting work. So I do coaching with executive leaders, mostly women in nonprofit settings, mostly. Uh, I do training and systems thinking, and my deep passion is around renewal retreats, where providing space and experiences for particularly women leaders to unplug and to tap into that joy, remember the joy, and find, identify ways to stay joyous in the hard work. But it's really around equipping leaders to dream, strategize, and mobilize for inspired growth and community impact.
I love it. More possibilities, more possibilities. Okay. Last question. You've dropped a lot of nuggets and given a lot of suggestions and ideas and for people to be successful in spite of their obstacles. But what's one piece of advice you would leave that you feel like can't leave this interview without sharing? One piece of advice for someone who wants to be successful and they face obstacles, because we all do.
Yeah.
One thing that you would say you have to do.
Don't give up.
That's a good one.
I had an experience in Scotland last year on my own, or year before last, where my sole goal in the time on this little very remote island was to just go to the Atlantic side of the island. That was it, because I thought, how cool to be in Scotland on the Atlantic Ocean, and it touches the United States too. It just felt like a nifty thing. And the weather was wretchedly horrible. It was sunny, but the wind was like 50 miles an hour. It was raining periodically. It was nuts, is what it was. But so I take off, and 5 times, and I have a whole presentation I do on this, 5 times between my where I was staying and the Atlantic side, which was maybe a mile and a half walk. Um, I stopped and thought, that's far enough. And then there's this like voice in my head that said, keep going. And so I'd go a little further, and then I'd hit another barrier. The road was washed out, and I thought, oh well, that's far enough. And then I was like, Lisa, just go around it. And it's like, and I just kept hearing, keep going, keep going, keep going. And when I finally got there, it was the most absolutely, utterly glorious thing I'd ever seen in my life. And I realized how my own sense of isn't that enough almost kept me from experiencing it when that was my goal all along. And so this has just been, it's just such a huge, it's like, why am I still having to learn this message? I'm 50, at that point I was 58 years old. Why am I still learning this message that you got a goal, stick to it, you're gonna hit barriers, go around them, figure something else out, and keep going, and don't give up. So that's my advice.
And I love it, Lisa. On that note, I just want to thank you, because that's powerful. That's a lesson on life. And I needed that even myself right now.
Me too. It's every day I need to remind myself.
Yes, yes, yes. Thank you so much, Lisa. It has been a pleasure talking to you today. It's been a pleasure watching you on Facebook. And like I said, I'm just loving your new journey. And I appreciate you sharing how you got here. And I'm just wishing you the absolute best for more possibilities.
Yes, there's more possibilities for all of us. We just have to grab it.
And don't give up.
Don't
Thank
give up.
you.